Qiran will be difficult. Everybody that makes Umrah, Hajj, they make it tamattu, 99%. Qiran is difficult. Can anybody tell me why Qiran is difficult? Your ihram will be very long, yeah. So if you get to Mecca, for example, on the 2nd of Dhul Hijjah, you'll be in ihram from the 2nd all the way till the day of Eid, all the way till Tahallul on the day of Eid, which is like 8 days. And for those who don't have experience, being in ihram for a long time, especially for men, is difficult. For women, it's a little bit easier because they're in their normal clothes, but for men, it's difficult. So it's hard. If somebody wants to do Qiran, that's fine. That's your own choice and responsibility. But we always recommend people to do tamattu'. First of all, because many scholars said it's the best of all of the ways of doing Hajj out of the three, tamattu' and Qiran and Ifrad. They said tamattu' is the best. So therefore, you're doing something which is afdal, the best one. And then second, because it's easier also. So you'll find that 90 the manasik. And on this day, the manasik. And on this day, we don't actually have that much to do. You have to make ihram from Mecca, meaning from your hotel room. So on the day of Dhul Hijjah, you don't have to go to Masjid Aisha. You don't have to go to anywhere else. You just make ihram from your hotel room on this day. In this particular occasion, you make ihram from your hotel room. So that's special for the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah. Otherwise, if you wanted to make another Umrah or something like that, we said you have to go to a Tan'im, Masjid Aisha. But here, no. You make it from wherever you are, from your hotel room, from Al-Aziziyah, wherever you're at, you'll make ihram from there. And then you head to Mina. And in Mina, there is no special actions that have to be done. You just spend the day there, do the salawat. So let me ask you a question about the salah in the manasik. Do we combine the salawat and do we shorten the prayers? That's my question to you. Both? You say both? Yes. Does anyone say there's a yes or no, or sometimes we do, sometimes we don't? So yes, you're correct in that we shorten the prayers. But sometimes we combine and sometimes we don't combine. And this is the sunnah. So on the days basically when you're in Mina, which is the 8th day, and then you come back again on the 10th day for Eid, and the Ayyam al-Tashriq, 11th, 12th, 13th, all the days you're in Mina, in the tent in Mina, you will, of course, do qasr, because we're travelers. You'll shorten the prayers. But we will pray all 5 prayers in their time. You don't combine the prayers. And really, because you're not doing much, you're just staying in the tent all day. So you don't have to combine the prayers. So these days of Mina, any day you're in Mina, you pray all the salawat on time. If you wanted to combine, it's okay. It's not like haram or anything. If you wanted to combine Dhuhr and Asr, that's fine. But the sunnah is to pray all the prayers on time in Mina. You shorten them, but you pray them all in time. As for in Arafah and Muzdalifah, you also, along with qasr, along with shortening the prayers, you combine the prayers. So in Muzdalifah and in Arafah. We'll talk about that in a moment, inshallah. So this day, the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, we don't have to do much. There's nothing special that you have to do. You just spend the day in the tent in Mina. And that means you spend the day in beneficial something, nafi', you reading Quran, making adhkar, reading a book, listening to the talks that they give in the tent, and so on. But there's nothing else that you have to do. And you spend the day until Fajr. This whole day of the 8th of Dhul Hijjah in Mina is Sunnah. This whole day is Sunnah. What do I mean by Sunnah? Can you tell me what I mean by that? The whole day is Sunnah. Everything is Sunnah, right? In Hajj, it's all Sunnah. So what do we mean by this day is Sunnah? It means that, what if you miss this day? Let's say your flight was late, and you arrived on the 9th. You came on the 9th day. And you missed the whole 8th day in Mina. You didn't spend the day in the tent at all. It's Sunnah, meaning mustahab. It's perfectly fine. Your Hajj is completely valid. You don't have to offer any fidya, nothing. This is just a Sunnah, but there's no penalty for missing this action on this day, the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. The 9th is the complete opposite. The complete opposite, which is the 8th we said is recommended. If you make it to Mina on that day, that's good, and that's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. If you missed it, there's no fidya. The 9th is the complete opposite, which is that if you miss this day, what do you miss? You missed all of Hajj. You didn't just miss like something which is recommended or even something which is wajib. No, you missed the pillar of Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Hajju Arafah. So when do we come to Arafah? You come early on. Your group might take you earlier in the morning at some point, and you stay in Arafah. In Arafah, you should combine Dhuhr and Asr. You should combine Dhuhr and Asr. Also, there's a khutbah which could be given for the Hujjaj to listen to. There's one big khutbah for all of the Hujjaj, but usually you're not going to go to that. There's a khutbah given, like, you know, by the big scholar in the Hajj, but this is not most of the time something that you could attend. So you're going to attend a khutbah in your camp or in your tent on the day of Arafah. In Arafah, it's a big place, a big facility. You can walk around outside. I will tell you some advice, which is a lot of people waste time. They waste time by going to the mountain in Arafah. In Arafah, there's a mountain. And people, when they go to this mountain, first of all, it's not like special. It's not like you have to go there or anything like that, or your Hajj is better if you go to the mountain. Second of all, you will tire yourself out. You will. Some people have gotten lost. I saw somebody who actually got lost, and she couldn't find her way back until the next day, or maybe 2 days later. She got lost and she didn't have her ID with her. So you could get lost. It could be very hot. There's a lot of crowds, and you're missing the biggest benefit of Arafah, which is what? Making dua. The biggest thing you should be doing on Arafah is making dua. Of course, it says here dua for 6 hours. You don't have to do all dua this whole time, but that should be the main thing that you're focusing on. The day of Arafah, the Prophet ﷺ said Allah comes down to the lowest heaven and he says to the angels, look at my slaves, they have come to me, atawni shu'than ghubra. They have come to me like dusty and dirty and disheveled. And in different narrations, ma arada haula, like what do these people want? Meaning they came for Allah's mercy. All of these people are dusty and dirty for the sake of coming here for Allah's mercy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very generous with the people of Arafah. So you should make a lot of dua on this day. Dua for anything that you want in this life and the next. And make that your main focus. That's even why there's a sunnah normally that we would do in Arafah. We would not do it while we're Hujjaj. What is that sunnah? There's something normally sunnah, but we won't do it on the day of... Yes, fasting. Normally we fast. We say you should fast on the day of Arafah, the 9th of Dhul Hijjah. It's recommended to fast. But we say if you're making Hajj, don't fast. Don't fast. That's the sunnah. Because fasting will take away your energy. And you need a lot of energy on this day just to be able to make a lot of dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the main action on this day and the thing to focus on. And again, I advise you, don't waste your time going outside, walking to the mountain, getting lost, getting tired, and getting under the sun. Rather spend it making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially the time at the end of the day, before Maghrib. Then, this is also the 9th, you will head to Muzdalifah after Maghrib time. After Maghrib time. And you'll spend the night in Muzdalifah. Don't be shocked if it's very hard to leave right at Maghrib time, because most of the time it doesn't happen. Like the sunnah is the Prophet ﷺ would leave at Maghrib and he would get to Muzdalifah close to Isha time. And then when it's Isha, he would combine Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. In reality, you might be waiting in Arafah because of the buses. Buses are coming one after another, and your bus might not come, or a bus that has room for you might not come until 12 at midnight. This is possible. So don't expect that you're going to leave at Maghrib. Sometimes there's a big delay. So you will get to Muzdalifah whenever you get there. It might be at 10 at night, it might be at 11 at night, it might be at 1 in the morning, but inshallah you'll get there at some point. And when you get to Muzdalifah, this is a little bit different. This is one of the one of the parts of Hajj where you're under the open sky. I don't know if we have any pictures. I don't think so. Yeah. So in Muzdalifah you're under the sky. Everywhere else you have a tent, you have a khayma. In Mina and Arafah you have a tent over you. In Muzdalifah it's nothing. It's all just rocks. So you have a little cushion, they'll give you a cushion, and you spend the night sleeping on that cushion under the stars. And there's no houses built in Muzdalifah or anything like that. In Muzdalifah, you should just get rest. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he went to sleep that night. So you should get rest. Don't say like, oh, I want to make tahajjud and qiyam al-layl. Unless you can't sleep and you're just, it's very hard. But otherwise, it's better to sleep so you get rest. Better to get sleep for the next day. To spend the night in Muzdalifah and not to leave until Fajr time. You're not supposed to leave until Fajr time. There is an allowance, like a rukhsa, for weak people, women, children, sick people and so on, to leave at half of the night, but usually you'll find that you will leave in the morning time after Fajr. Let me ask you, where do we go after this? After you spent the night in Muzdalifah, let's see if you've been studying about Hajj. Where do you go next? To the Jamarat? Okay, correct. But where are we going? Back to Mina. This is still called Mina. So you still stay in Mina. You're correct, you will go to Mecca at some point. Usually on the 10th day, but it could be after that too. So you're now it's the 10th day, after Fajr. You're going back to where? To Mina. And you will do stoning the Jamarat, except in this case, Jamarat is plural. You're only stoning one Jamrah. So look at the screen here. We see that we have a lot to do on this day. On the day of Eid, most people here back home, they might go do the Udhiyah, but the rest of the day they're just kind of hanging out and having fun. For us in Hajj, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. So the first thing we have to do is to pray Fajr. By the way, you could, if you missed the bus, this happened to us last year, the buses were completely packed and full and they stopped coming. So you could walk from Muzdalifah back to Mina. You could walk from Muzdalifah back to Mina. It's about an hour walking. So if you're healthy and you have the ability, you could walk back if you know where you're going. Also, if you're not afraid of getting lost, maybe take a group of people if your tour group allows it, and you could walk back if you wanted. On the day of Dhul Hijjah, this day also has a nickname, which is Yawm al-Eid, of course. It's also known as Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar, or Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar, the day of al-Hajj al-Akbar. Some people think that al-Hajj al-Akbar means something different, but this, in reality, it's just the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. On this day, after praying Fajr, meaning you pray Fajr here, when it says pray Fajr, it means in Muzdalifah. You pray Muzdalifah. Then you come to Mina. On this day, you'll come back to Mina and you will stone one of the Jamarat, which is the biggest one, which is Jamrat al-Aqaba. And if you ever say like, okay, I'm not going to remember all this information, don't worry, you're with a group and there's millions of people doing the same thing as you. So don't say I'm going to stone the wrong Jamrah or something like that. Everybody's doing the right action, so you just follow the group and follow the crowd, and they'll remind you many times. So you will stone the right Jamrah, inshallah, don't worry. You stone it with how many pebbles? 7. So on this day you only need 7 pebbles. You don't need 21. On the other days you're going to need 21 because you're going to do each one of the Jamarat 7 times, which is times 3. But here you only need 7 because you're only doing one Jamrah. And you should pick up your stones beforehand. Pick them up, for example, in Muzdalifah, sometimes in Arafah, anywhere. A lot of people have like superstitions about the stones and you have to pick them up from a certain place or you have to wash them. Oh, you don't have to do any of that. It's very simple. Any stone, you pick it up and you can use it. But the sunnah is that it's not too big and not too small. The sunnah is that it's not too big, like a boulder, You see some people, a lot of wrong beliefs when it comes to. So the jamra, what does it represent? It represents when Ibrahim alayhi salam, he saw shaitan in this place, so he stoned him. It doesn't mean literally that this jamra right now is a shaitan, because a lot of people come and they're very angry with the jamra, and they're like, they're picking up their shoes off their feet and throwing it at it. They think they're like getting their anger out at shaitan. So this represents shaitan. It represents when Ibrahim alayhi salam was stoning the jamrat, and it's following the sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ did it, but it's done very calmly. The Prophet ﷺ came and stoned the jamrat very calmly. But some people come and they're very angry. They're throwing from far away. What's going to happen if you throw an object from very far away in the crowd? It's gonna come and hit somebody in the front of the jamrat. So just come very calmly. A lot of times you'll see, inshallah your group will point this out, there's a big crowd at the jamrah. Instead of going to that big crowded area, just go a little bit further more, and you'll find that the crowd is a lot less. And at that point where there's a lot less crowd, just try to get close to it and just stone it 7 times. Each time you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Each one you pick up from your bag, Allahu Akbar, and so on. And stoning means like you just raise your arm slightly. You don't have to throw it like you're throwing, some object very far, but you don't also just like drop it in. You don't drop it in. You will lift up your arm and throw it from the jamrah to the jamrah. So these pebbles should be medium sized. Medium sized. They said like a hummus. Hummus, the bean. Everybody knows hummus. So these beans should be like that size. It should be like that size. So not tiny, not like a very tiny pebble that you can hardly see. Should be like the size of a bean. Also not very large, like it's the size of a big rock. No, very small. We will stone the jamrah. We will sacrifice the hadi, but in reality you don't do it yourself. Nobody does it at Hajj themselves. It's done on your behalf. You paid the money and they do it on your behalf. Then when you come back from the jamrah, you can shave or trim your hair. You can shave or trim your hair. And once you've done this, once you've done these 2 things, this is called at-tahallul al-awwal. This is called the first tahallul, exiting your ihram. So at this point, you can exit your ihram. It feels very good because you've been in ihram now since the 8th. So now you can exit your ihram, you can use fragrances and things like that. The only thing that's not permissible now is anything relating to like marital relations. That's still not allowed yet. But you can shave or trim your hair, and then you can do tawaf al-ifada. Why do I say you can do tawaf al-ifada? Although tawaf al-ifada here is a rukn, it's a pillar in Hajj. So why do I say you can do it? The answer is because you can do it, meaning on this day. You have to do it at some point, but you could do it on this day, the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, or you could wait. Some people say, I want to get it over with, I want to do it right away, like the Prophet ﷺ did. So in that case, you'll go to Mecca, like he mentioned. You will go to Mecca, from Mina you will go to Mecca. But if you don't want to, you say it's too crowded today, you could do it the next day, the 11th. You could do it the 12th. You could do it the 13th. Some scholars say you could even delay it beyond the Ayyam al-Tashriq. So on the day you're leaving, you could do Tawaf al-Ifada. And you could make your intention that this is Tawaf al-Ifada, and it'll count for my Tawaf al-Wada' also. Because when you leave Mecca from Hajj, there's a Tawaf called Tawaf al-Wada', which is the farewell Hajj. Farewell Tawaf. So you could do both with that intention, that this is Tawaf al-Ifada and it also counts for my Tawaf al-Wada'. That would be if you delay it till like the last day, right before you're about to leave. But maybe it's better just to be on the safe side, so you don't, in case of your flight getting, you might miss your flight or something like that. It's better to do Tawaf al-Ifada, and then right before leaving, you do Tawaf al-Wada'. Just so there's no, like, you're not rushing or afraid that you're going to not miss your bus or something to the airport or something like that. We have a big question here. A lot of people ask this question, is that, do they have to do these matters in order? So there's an order here, which is sunnah, which is the Prophet ﷺ he did rami, stoning the jamrah. Then he did al-dhabh, which is the sacrificing the hadi. Then he did halq, which is shaving the head. Some scholars, they said, remember the word radaha, to remember these three in order. Rami, dhabh, halq. The Prophet ﷺ would do these three in order. So, do they have to be done in order? The answer is that the majority of ulama, they say you don't have to do them in order. You could do them outside of the order. So for example, when would most people ask this question? They would say, we don't know when our animal was sacrificed. Right? You don't know exactly. Is it going to be sacrificed at 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning or 5 in the afternoon or what? So I don't know exactly when this animal was sacrificed. They're sacrificing millions of animals at one time. So when can I shave my head? When can I cut my hair so I can exit ihram? The answer is that according to the majority of scholars, the majority opinion, it doesn't matter. If you just do 2 out of these 3 things, which is stoning the jamrah and shaving your head and tawaf al-ifadah, 2 out of 3, then you could exit your ihram. So you can just do the jamrah, stone the jamrah, and cut your hair, and then you can exit the ihram. Again, this is the minor tahallul. Minor tahallul. Meaning the only thing prohibited is marital relations.
So tahallul has to be after the tawaf? It must be after the tawaf?
No. It could be before the tawaf. Yeah, it could be before the tawaf. So, for example, on this day you pray Fajr, you arrive in Mina, you go to the Jamarat, you stone them, you stone the Jamarat, Jamra one only, which is Jamrat al-Aqaba, and then you come back and cut your hair, and at that point you're out of Ihram. You are out of Ihram.
So I can do just 2?
Yes, just 2, yes. And the hadi, the sacrificing, according to the majority, it's okay. It doesn't matter in the order what order you do it.
So I don't need to wait.
So you don't need to wait. Yes, you don't need to wait. According again to the majority opinion. Yes.
So I saw when purchasing the hadi, there was like 2 options. One where they do it at a specific time versus one where like it doesn't matter. What was the basis on that?
So some scholars they say it has to be done in order, and if you don't do them in order, you have to offer like a penalty, fidya. You have to pay a fidya. So that's why some people prefer to do it in order because they want to stick to that opinion. But what I'm telling you is the majority opinion. The Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali opinion, they say it's fine. And this is the clearer opinion because the Prophet ﷺ very clearly said, a lot of hadith in Bukhari and Muslim where people would come to the Prophet ﷺ and they would say, Ya Rasulullah, I did this before this. And the Prophet ﷺ would say, La haraj, no problem. And they would say, I did tawaf before this. And the Prophet ﷺ would say, La haraj. So the Prophet ﷺ was very flexible. He kept the narrator of the hadith, he said, فَمَا سُئِلَ صلى الله عليه وسلم عن شيء قدم ولا أخر إلا قال لا حرج. The Prophet ﷺ was not asked by anyone a question that day that they did something before something, except he said, La haraj. It's fine. So the hadith is very clear that the Prophet ﷺ was flexible with people on that day. And this is from the taysir, the ease of the sharia, is that these things are inshallah flexible. So you don't have to say what time your hadi was done. Inshallah, it's not a big deal. You will just do these matters, and the tawaf al-ifadah doesn't have to be done on this day. It could be done another day.
Do you need to shave or trim after tawaf al-ifadah, or?
No, it could be before. It could be before, yeah. So we said 2 out of 3 things. 2 out of 3, which is stoning the jamrah, shaving your head, and tawaf al-ifadah. So if you want, you could do tawaf and shave your head. If you want, you could do rami and shave your head. You could do it either way, like that.
And tawaf al-ifadah with sa'i or without sa'i?
Tawaf al-ifadah, yes, that's a good question. Tawaf al-ifadah will be with sa'i. Yes, you will, because you did tamattu', so you have to do tawaf and then sa'i afterwards. Sa'i afterwards also.
So tawaf al-ifadah, if I trim my hair, then it will be regular dress.
It will be what?
Regular dress.
Yes, regular dress, yes. Yeah. So I'll give you an example to make it clear. On this day, we go and stone the jamrah. Then you come back to your tent in Mina and grab one of the brothers and tell him, shave your head. Or one of the sisters, she says to another sister, cut my hair, trim the hair. So now you've shaved your head, you can go and put on normal clothes. You could take a shower, put on normal clothes. You can put on cologne. You can do all these things. You could trim your nails. All of these things now are permissible. All of them permissible. So you can go and make tawaf now with regular clothes on. You can make tawaf al-ifada with regular clothes on. طيب. And this is until the next day, the 11th day.
So if we're unable to catch a bus for tawaf al-ifada back, is it permissible to do it on the next day, or is it khalas once we missed it, we missed that opportunity for that tawaf?
What do you mean? If you miss the bus on that day of the 10th?
Yeah, because I'm assuming the only way to get back is to do the tawaf is off a bus, right? Or unless you're gonna walk it.
Yeah, you have to get some kind of transportation.
So I know you were saying based off previous years that you could possibly miss a bus, or like the buses weren't there, or whatever the case is, or.
Yeah, well, your group, talk to Mu'adh, but your group should tell you, like, this is how we're going to get to Mecca. They're not going to leave you alone and say, go to make the tawaf al-ifada, because you need some guidance on how to get there. So they'll say, we'll have a bus going at this time, or we'll have a group that will go together, or something like that. So inshallah, they'll help you to get there. But if you didn't make it on the 10th, it's not a problem. You could go do it on the 11th, or the 12th, or the 13th.
Just in case, like especially women, they have their like broken nail or something, saying that they have ihram. Is it okay to file it or to do anything?
If you have a broken nail, we're going to talk about that in a minute, inshallah. But if you had something bothering you, is different than shaving or trimming a nail for no reason. So, for example, if it's like broken and it's bothering you, a broken nail, and it's like hurting or it's bothering you, if you remove it at that point, it's because of the hardship, not because you're just trimming your nail for no reason. So what's not permissible is to cut your hair or trim your nails for no reason. But if it's for a reason, that's something else. So we have the 11th through 13th. These are known as أيام التشريق. أيام التشريق. And these are part of the days of Eid. أيام التشريق أيام أكل وشرب وذكر لله. In these days, we stay in Mina in the tents. We'll get back to that in a second about optional. On each of these days, we will stone all of the jamarat. All three of them, you will walk by them, they all come in order, and you will stone all three of them. الصغرى والوسطى والكبرى. So on how many rocks will you need each day? 21. So 21 for each day. 21 plus 21 plus 21. How many is that? 63. Plus you needed how many on the day of Eid? 70. So this is what you do. And you stay in the tents the rest of the day. You stay in the tents the rest of the day. You do qasr for all the salawat, shorten them, but you don't combine them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, you could do the 13th day or you could not do the 13th day, if you wish. فَمَنْ تَعَجَّلَ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ وَمَنْ تَأَخَّرَ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى. Allah says, whoever تَعَجَّلَ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ, whoever does ta'ajjul so that they leave in the second day, so they leave on the 12th, then فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ, there's no harm on them. And if they stay until the 13th day, there's no harm on them for whoever has taqwa. So you have the choice. But if you want to leave early, many people leave early. On the 12th day, you have to leave before a certain time. When is that time? When does the day end in Islam? Maghrib. So when do you have to leave by? You have to leave by Maghrib. So if you're there and you're like, should I stay? Should I stay here or should I leave? Should I stay or till I leave? And then it becomes Maghrib time. At that point, you have to stay. You have to stay for the 13th day. So if you want to leave, you have to leave earlier in the day before Maghrib. The ulama, they said, if you're leaving and Maghrib adhan goes off, that's okay. For example, you went there and you got on the bus to leave Mina to go back to Al-Aziziyah usually, to go back to Mecca. and you're waiting in the bus, and then they take off late, so now you're leaving, and then the Maghrib adhan goes off, inshallah, that's okay. As long as you were traveling to leave before the Maghrib time. But you have to make the decision before then. Yes?
So our group, they are saying like, we'll be Makkah first.
Mhm.
They're going to take us to Medina in 12th, right?
Okay, then
So in this case, we have to do the Rami before we leave, right?
yes, you have to do the Rami before the evening. Yes. So let me also talk about the time for Rami. On the 10th day, you can do Rami from the Fajr time because you arrive there from Fajr. So you can do the stoning from Fajr time. On the 11th through 13th, the stoning should not be done until after Zawal, which means after Dhuhr time has come in. So 11, 12, and 13, you should not leave until, you should not stone until Dhuhr time. This is only for Ayyam al-Tashriq. As for the day of Eid, you can start from Fajr. So yeah, if you're going to leave on the 12th, that means you're going to you're going to do the stone the Jamarat after Dhuhr sometime, and then leave. And then leave.
So before Dhuhr is recommended, or
Before Dhuhr is, most scholars say you can't do it before Dhuhr on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. They would say it's not allowed. It has to be before, after Zawal. Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he made Hajj, he was waiting until Zawal, Dhuhr time, before he would go and to stone the Jamarat. And they said, why would the Prophet ﷺ wait until it's later in the day and it's hotter and it's more difficult before leaving, except to show that you have to wait that time. He did it for a reason. So they say the reason is that because it's a wajib, it's a must to wait until Zawal, until Dhuhr comes in. So most scholars would say you cannot stone the Jamrat on these days except after Dhuhr comes in.
the order matters, like Jamaat is more big? Or
Yes, yeah, you should do them you'll walk to them in order. So there's no way you could do them out of order because you come across them in order. You come like this one, then you stone it. The second one, you stone it. The third one, you stone it. So you're not going to mess up, don't worry. This is just some logistic stuff. Do them on my behalf. So when you go and do the stoning, you do 7 for yourself and then do 7 for this person who's sick in the tent, or this elderly person, or they don't have the ability to come, so you could do it on somebody's behalf. You can help them in that way. That's basically all we had to talk about. I was just going to talk one last thing. You're not allowed to cut your hair or nails. You're not allowed to use things like oils or perfume or bukhur, things like that. Not things which don't have like a particularly pleasant smell, like for example, if it's just like a hand sanitizer, stuff like that. That's not considered a perfume. Covering the head for men, covering the face for women, wearing makhit, which means like a garment, like for men, a shirt or pants or socks. Conducting or like witnessing a marriage, to be a witness. Of course, marital relations. And these are the things which there's a fidya for them. As for arguing and swearing and fighting, this is just haram, but it's not like there's a fidya, special fidya for it. Also, there's Sayd, which is hunting. I don't think anybody's going to Mecca to hunt for rabbits or something like that, so we don't have to worry too much about that. What if you do these things by accident? So the general rule, you don't have to keep, if you want to ask the Sheikh just to clarify, but you don't have to keep asking the Sheikh. If you did something by accident, usually the answer is it's okay. So for example, I was scratching my head and some hairs came out. I was pulling my beard and some hairs came out. I started biting my nails and I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was sleeping at night and then I pulled the blanket over my head, and you're not supposed to cover your head. I didn't know, and I was wearing a shirt under my ihram, and then they told me that it's not allowed to wear a shirt. All these matters, if you say, I did it by accident, I didn't know, then there's no fidya. You don't have to offer any penalty. Hajj, like they say, intercourse. But otherwise, like all the other ones, they don't have a fidya if you do them by accident. If you do them on purpose, there's two possibilities. You did it on purpose for no reason. In this case, it's a sin, ithm. There's a sin. If you did any of these things for no reason, like why did you put on this perfume? I just wanted to do it. So that's haram. You're committing a sin because it's mahdurat al-ihram. If you do something not on, you do it on purpose, but because you needed to do it. Like one of the Sahaba, he had lice in his hair. You know, lice, these insects. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that you could shave your head at this point. فَمَنْ كَانَ بِهِ أَذًى فَمَنْ كَانَ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. He had lice in his hair. So what can he do? He has to shave his head so he's like can treat his get rid of these lice. So if you have to do something for a reason, a medical reason or whatever, because you have to, then in this case you still have to offer a fidya. You still have to offer a fidya. So for example, a person, like we said, they had lice and they had to shave their head. If we said, for example, wearing clothes, this is the most common one for men. Somebody says he needs to wear underwear because of a medical condition. He needs to wear socks because medical condition, or compression socks or something. He needs to wear shoes. He can't wear sandals because of a medical condition. All these things. Then in this case, they can do that thing, but they should offer the fidya. And the fidya is three things. In most cases, fidya can be kind of complicated, number of categories, but in most cases, it's three things, which is sacrificing an animal, or feeding 6 poor people, and fasting 3 days, or fasting 3 days. So they are sacrificing an animal, a sheep, or feeding 6 poor people, or fasting 3 days. These 3 days, they don't have to be in order, they could be in out of order. The fasting, the feeding the poor people and the slaughtering of the animal should be in Mecca. So it should be sacrificed and given to the people of Mecca. And same thing with the poor, it should be given to the poor of Mecca.
Fasting can be done.
Fasting can be done later. It doesn't have to be done in Mecca. It could be done when you get back home. So these are if you have like a medical issue and you need to do one of those things. 6 poor people also from Mecca, yeah. So they have like tables and places where like set up by the Hajj ministry and stuff like that, where you could just tell them I need to offer a fidya and they'll do it for you. So they have things like that. If you want to just, if you know that these people look very poor, for example, somebody lives in like a, if you're sure that they're very poor, you could give them the things directly. But if you just let the charity organizations do it on your behalf, just so you make sure that they gave it to the right people. There was something else I wanted to mention, forgetting, but maybe with the questions it'll come up. Oh yeah, so a lot of people, there's a misconception a lot of people have. They think any mistake in Hajj means them, like you have to sacrifice. A lot of people think that any mistake you make in Hajj, you have to sacrifice an animal, and that's not the case. It's not everything. And as we see, a lot of things you have 3 choices. Either them, which is sacrificing an animal, or fasting or feeding the poor. Some things also, they're not at the level where you have to offer a full fidya. Like some scholars said, for example, if you have to stay all the nights in Mina of Ayyam al-Tashriq, you have to stay most of the night in Mina. What if you missed a night? You might say, okay, if you miss one night, you have to offer a fidya. You have to pay for an animal sacrifice of a sheep or a goat. But actually, most scholars, they say, if you missed one night, you give some sadaqah. You don't have to sacrifice a sheep. You would only have to do the fidya if you missed all 3 nights. If you missed all 3 nights, like the night of the 11th, 12th, and 13th. And the night after Eid also. But otherwise, not everything in Hajj has to offer a fidya. Some things are just smaller than that. And if you're confused, like we said, there's a lot of categories. That's what your guide is there for. So you say, I made this mistake, what do I have to do? And then they could tell you. Yes?
So Sheikh, like you said, if we miss the night in Mina, we can give some sadaqah. But you know that some packages they offer room in the Aziziyah or Makkah, right? If we intentionally stay there at night instead of Mina, is the sadaqah will cover it?
Yeah, so some groups might take different fiqh opinions. They might take different madhabs. And maybe they take the madhab that says that it's sunnah to stay in Mina. But the opinion usually we follow is that it's wajib to stay. So sometimes you'll find a group that is doing something and you might ask, why are you doing it this way? That's not the way I learned it. They might say, oh, because of this madhab, for example. So that could be the answer. Allah, I don't know. Maybe they're saying because of the madhab who says it's sunnah to stay. But most of the time, most groups, as far as I know, they keep you in Mina during those nights. But sometimes you can leave and go back to Al-Aziziyah, but usually you'll come back to your tent. They say if you stay 50% of the night, most of the night, meaning at least you stay half of the night in Mina, it's okay, it counts as staying most of the night. So even if, for example, you go back to your room in Aziziyah, and then you come back from like half of the night, let's say for example like 1 in the morning until Fajr is more than half of the night, then that's okay, you didn't do any problem, so that's fine. طيب. I think we're about done, inshallah. So we can just end with any questions. If you have any questions, inshallah, and that's about it. Let me see if I had it.
So if you miss that tawaf and al-ifada, and you do that last tawaf, are you doing 2 tawafs?
Okay, that's a good. I forgot to talk about one last thing, which is tawaf al-wada'. Tawaf al-wada' is when the farewell tawaf when you're leaving Mecca. This is for any Hajj. It's wajib, so you have to do it. And that is, you delay it until the end, when you're about to leave. So for example, you have to leave back to the airport. You have to leave back to the airport, for example, let's say anytime. So they tell you be at the hotel to leave to the airport. So you have to go and make tawaf and come back with enough time safely that you know you could make it back to your airport. So you do it like you try to push it to the last minute, but not so much last minute that you're gonna miss the bus or something. You could come back and still have like an hour left or 2 hours left, that's fine. But they say once you finish your tawaf al-wada', you try not to do anything else. Like don't go shopping, don't go doing anything else, because wada' means like farewell. You bid farewell to the Kaaba. No. There's no sa'i for it. If tawaf al-wada', it has no sa'i to it. If you want, so he's asking, can you combine them, or do you do 2 tawaf? Normally it would be 2. So normally you would do the tawaf al-ifada, which is a pillar of Hajj, it's rukn. You have to do it on the 10th day. If you don't do it on the 10th day, you could do it on the 11th day. You could do it on the 12th. If you want, we said, you could combine it with tawaf al-wada', but you have to now time it carefully. Which is, you do tawaf al-wada', and then this is you're not making the intention that it's tawaf al-wada', you're making this is tawaf al-ifada, that this is the pillar of Hajj. And let's say you're doing it on the 13th day. Then you do your sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and then you go to the airport and back to your country. So you could combine it, 2 tawaf, you could combine them into 1.
But you have to do the sa'i after.
You have to do sa'i afterwards. Yeah, you have to do sa'i afterwards. Yes.
What is the best place to collect the stones?
What is the basis for it?
No, I mean the best.
Oh, the best place to get the stones? It doesn't matter, but usually it's easier to get them in Muzdalifah, because there's a lot of stones there in Muzdalifah. The night before you go to Eid in Mina,
We have to collect ourselves.
you should collect it yourself. Yeah, they're not going to give you. They're not going to give you the stones. You have to do it yourself. So in Muzdalifah, it just takes like 5 minutes, and you go and pick up a lot of stones and put them in your bag, and then
They provide the bag though, right?
they provide a bag. Yeah, but they're not going to provide the stones. They're not going to do all the work for you.
I have a couple of questions here.
Yes.
How is it to stay in Arafah? You said it doesn't mean that you have to go to the mountain itself.
Yeah.
So how is it gonna be? Like are the tents? It's gonna be in the.
Yes, they're tents, but they're big tents. They're not like in Mina. They're smaller tents, smaller in the sense of like 100 people in a tent. In Arafah, they're bigger tents. They could fit like a couple hundred people in those tents.
And you said that after you go back down from Arafah, if you know that you're not gonna make it to Muzdalifah, yes, to Muzdalifah, do you pray Maghrib and Isha there?
So if you're going to be late to make it to Muzdalifah, if you're leaving Arafah and going to Muzdalifah, should you pray Maghrib and Isha there or in Muzdalifah? Yeah. So that's a good question. So the sunnah is you're in Arafah. When Maghrib time comes in, don't pray Maghrib. Wait until you get to Muzdalifah and then pray Maghrib and Isha there. But the question is, what if you're going to be very late? Like for example, you're not going to get there till like 1 in the morning to Arafah. In this case, many scholars, they say you shouldn't delay Isha past either half of the night or 1/3 of the night. So in this case, if you're going to be late and the bus is going to be a while, you just pray Maghrib and Isha in Arafah. So it's not like a must that you have to pray in Muzdalifah, but that is the sunnah. So if you're going to be late and the bus is not coming until late at night, 1 in the morning or something, just pray Maghrib and Isha in Arafah.
When you're doing the tawaf, I know for men that I've heard in some places they have to cover the right shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
For all 7, right? I've heard some people say, for 3, and then you take it off. But I wanted to clarify that alongside. Is that the tawaf just for the Umrah tawaf, or is that for every single tawaf that is done?
Yeah. So when you do tawaf, there's something called iltiba', which is to uncover your right shoulder for men. And the Prophet ﷺ did this in Umrah al-Qadiyah, when Quraysh was saying these people will come and they're very sick. They're very sick from coming from Medina. They got diseases and stuff like that. So the Prophet ﷺ wanted to show that the Sahaba were not sick and they were healthy. So he told them, show your arm, like show your right arms. So this was to show that they were healthy and they were in good health. So this is done. This is done for the entire tawaf. This is done for the entire tawaf, but you should cover your shoulder when you're about to pray the 2 rak'at afterwards, because you're not supposed to pray with your shoulder uncovered. So once you finish the tawaf, you would cover your shoulder. As for what is in the first rounds, which is the raml. Raml is like the speeding up. When you jog a little bit, usually you can't do this in Hajj because it's too crowded. You're like, back to back with people. You're not walking very fast. But the sunnah is to jog for 3 and then to walk for 4. As for if that iltiba' is only done during Umrah and not during Hajj, Allahu Alam, I don't remember, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Then could you say that it's only applied when you're in ihram, possibly?
Yeah, only in ihram. Because if you're wearing your normal thobe, there's no way you could uncover your arm. Yeah, it's only if you're in ihram. Yeah, but I'll check if it's. I'll double check if it's only in Umrah or also in Tawaf al-Ifadah. I don't remember at this moment. Barakallahu fiik.
When you do sa'i, do you have to be ala wudu?
Sa'i, no. For Tawaf, you should be on wudu. For Sa'i, you don't have to be. So there's no fidya or penalty if you don't have wudu during Sa'i. As for Tawaf, again, I think we talked about this before. Most scholars say you have to have wudu during Tawaf. Of course, nowadays with the difficulty of Hajj, it's a very difficult situation. I think many of the ulama, if they saw the situation we are in, where millions of people are there at the Kaaba and it's very crowded and you're walking like, very slowly and your tawaf might take 4 hours, for example. So it's very, very big mashaqqa. It's very difficult to say, okay, you lost your wudu like halfway through. You have to go and start over again to make a tawaf from the beginning. Some scholars say you start tawaf from the beginning. Like you cancel the number you did and you start from 1 again. But, inshallah, the easier opinion is that if you can make wudu, like you pass by Zamzam or something and you make wudu and then continue your tawaf. And even if you made like 3 or 4 already, just make wudu and then continue from there and make 4, 5, 6. So you don't have to start all over again. And some scholars say an even easier opinion, which is that if you lose your wudu, just continue your tawaf. This is another opinion. It's a minority opinion, but it makes sense, especially with the difficulty of Hajj nowadays. Because a lot of times, even just to make wudu is hard. You're not going to find water around. And if you try to leave the Kaaba, go outside and go to the bathrooms and then come back, it's almost impossible. That's going to take you another hour and a half to leave, maybe more, to leave and find a bathroom and then come back with all of the crowds. So, it's a very big difficulty. So, even if a person lost their wudu and they continued their tawaf without wudu, then inshallah there's an opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah, Sheikh al-Islam, where he says this is permissible.
Can I make wudu using Zamzam water?
You could use Zamzam for wudu. That's permissible. You can use Zamzam for wudu. It's not disrespectful. You shouldn't use Zamzam for something disrespectful, like for example after the bathroom. But if you use it for wudu, it's not disrespectful. It's good. It's fine. Yeah. Any other questions?
So regular toothpaste is okay during Ihram?
Toothpaste is okay. Yeah, toothpaste is okay during ihram because it's not like a fragrance again, which is like a perfume or something like that. So you're just brushing your teeth with it. You're not like putting it on your body. So it's fine, inshallah. Yeah, wallahu alam. I'll give you time to think of questions. This is our last chance. When is everybody leaving?
28th.
28th? Oh, okay, a little bit later. Okay. 26th, 24th. Yeah, a little early.
Medina first?
Medina first, yes, inshallah. Bidnillah. Inshallah.
So how would you know when the hadi is slaughtered?
She said, when would you know when the hadi is slaughtered? To be honest, you don't really know. You don't really know. Because they're doing millions of them. They're doing millions of them, so you don't know when they slaughtered yours in particular. The only way to do that, there's some smaller, like individual that will say, I'm doing some hadi. I've seen people do this. They contact somebody that is in Mecca, and that person says, I'm doing hadi for 50 people or 100 people. And then he will tell you, like, okay, we finished now, we did it. In that way, if you did it with like a smaller individual, he could tell you that this is when we finished the hadi. But if you're talking about hadi with the government, and they're doing like 1 million goats at one time or sheep, there's no real way to know like when it's done. So in reality, you don't fully know.
I am really concerned in one of the, say, in our group, right? So they are saying we're gonna leave Mina at 12,
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna go to Medina by 3.
Oh, okay. So they might do Rami in the morning then.
Is it allowed? Is someone any opinions?
There's an opinion. It's a minority opinion. Yeah, I think they said Ata, one of the Salaf, said you could do Rami in the morning, but most say you can't. But if that's the only way that you can do it, then
If our group assisted, so
yeah, you have to go with the group. There's no way you can separate from the group. So if the Sheikh, if the Mufti gave that opinion, you just follow at that point.
Find someone to throw in your behind.
Maybe that's a solution also.
The first time when we had this meeting, I don't hear that you have to do the ihram for when you have the ihram for the umrah first, then you do the umrah and you're done with it. This says that إعادة الإحرام in Masjid Aisha. But now you said that wherever you are, just
Yes, because that's two different situations. That's two different situations. For Hajj on the 8th day of the Hijjah, you make ihram wherever you are from your hotel room. But your question is about if somebody wants to make extra umrahs. They want to make another umrah before or after Hajj. So every time they want to make an extra umrah, they have to go to Masjid Aisha. We're not talking about the Hajj. For Hajj, they make ihram wherever they are. So it's two different situations.
So Hajj doesn't require the entering or exit of a miqat?
No, you don't. For Hajj, once you're in Mecca, you're going to be in Mecca on that day, the 8th. You don't have to go and leave to the... Because Hajj, if you think about it, Hajj, part of it is in the Hill and part of it is in the Haram. Part of it is in the Hill and part of it is in the Haram. For example, Arafah is outside of the Haram. So that's why. Because Mecca, Hajj combines between the Hill, which is like outside the boundaries of the Haram, and then the Haram, which is within those boundaries.
Another question here. You said that on the 10th day we have the tahallul al-asghar.
No.
When's going to be the tahallul al-akbar?
What's going to be what?
Tahallul al-akbar or
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. So we said tahallul al-asghar is the minor tahallul, which is after you do two of three things. Usually if you do if you do rami and cutting your hair. But there's still tahallul al-akbar, which is to make tawaf. Once you do the three things, including the tawaf, at that point you completely exited ihram. You completely exited ihram. Is there any what? No, you don't have to do anything extra. It just means that once you've done the tawaf al-ifada, everything is permissible at that point. Of course, usually, you're in Hajj still, but it means that before the tahallul al-akbar, or the major tahallul, it's not allowed for husband and wife to be with one another. But otherwise, after tahallul al-akbar, it's allowed. But before that, it's a big problem. It actually could invalidate the Hajj. If a husband and wife have relations before at-tahallul, the main tahallul, major tahallul, this would actually invalidate the Hajj, and they have to repeat it the coming year. So it's something which is prohibited. Only after at-tahallul akbar, which is after making tawaf.
In Hara, we'll pray the regular salah.
If during the days of Hajj, no. Usually during Hajj you can't actually go to the Haram.
But Imam will pray regular.
Yes, yeah, they still have the salawat and stuff, because there's still people coming to make tawaf al-ifada. All the days of Hajj, there's people there, and they make the salah still. Yeah, they still make the salah in the Kaaba.
Pray on Jamas, we're going to follow him.
So if you're in Mina or Muzdalifah or Arafah, it's very far. It's miles away. So you're not going to be praying in the Haram or following the Haram either. It's like a number of miles away.
No, I mean, when we'll stay in Makkah.
When you're in Mecca at the Kaaba, yes, you'll still follow Jama'ah. Even if for example, you're making tawaf and then they make the iqamah, so you stop your tawaf, make the salah with them, and then you continue your tawaf from there. Yeah.
You would switch your intention for the salah though, right? They would be praying the fard, or so let's say because you said you do jama' but not qasr, right? So let's say I did my jama' and they're praying asr now, and that's when I'm doing my tawaf.
If that happened, usually you just will pray with the jama'ah. But let's say you already prayed asr, you already combined or something, and they're praying asr, you will just stop and pray asr with them as a nafila, as a sunnah. Yeah. If that happened. If you're doing tawaf, you should just make the fard and then continue the tawaf.
What about the other salawat?
Like what?
So we said that on the, I don't know which day, you have to be combining them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you could still, so you're in Mina or Muzdalifah, for example, you could still make the sunnah prayers. Yeah. You should still do the sunnah, especially sunnah of fajr and witr. Sunnah of fajr and witr. You should still do these even if you're a traveler. Even if you're a traveler, you should still at least do sunnah al-fajr and witr. But you could also do the other sunnah if you want, because you have free time. You have free time when you're in these tents.
Sheikh, likely I need to do ihram in Qatar airport. So I don't know whether they have an opportunity for shower.
If you couldn't make ghusl, it's okay. It's still valid. Yeah. If you can't make ghusl, it's just the recommended, so it's okay. Ihram without ghusl is fine. Or you could make ghusl before that. For example, the nearest place before that, like you're leaving home, you make ghusl with the intention that, inshallah, once I get there, I'll put on the ihram clothing before leaving home for the airport, or if you have a flight, a transit somewhere where you're staying in a hotel or something. So the nearest flight before that, or wherever you could make ghusl before, and then you put on the clothes before that, after that.
Leaving from Mina to Mecca, is it okay to miss the Friday prayer?
Yeah. So you might miss the Friday prayer. If it falls on a Friday, I don't know if it's gonna, but if it falls on a Friday, you would just stay in Mina or Muzdalifah or Mecca or whatever. You don't have to make Jum'ah in this case. Yeah. And also there's a common question is, do we make Eid Salah? Right? Because it's Eid day, but do we make Eid Salah? And the answer is no. You don't make Eid Salah. So you just stay in your tent in Mina, and the 10th day you go and stone the Jamrah, but you don't make the Eid Salah.
So there is a chance that this year, the day of Arafah can be on Friday. So any special significance?
It's not a special, like, something you have to do special, but the Prophet ﷺ, that's how it was during his time. But it doesn't mean like it's something special or some act of worship you have to do that's special on if Arafah falls on a Friday. Wallahu a'lam. If that's everything, inshallah, then barakallahu feekum, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give everyone a safe journey. Allahumma ameen. And inshallah return back to your family safe and secure with all of our sins.